You've spelunked into the Matt Cave. Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Matt Cave. Thank you all so much for spelunking on by. This week, we had a couple of wins. One was expected. The other one came out of nowhere. And then, well, Utah State played a game. I guess you could call it that. And Real Salt Lake might actually be on the right trajectory. I'll kind of explain my thinking on that. And the Utah Hockey Club locked up their talisman, Dylan Guenther, for a long time. I'll go over that deal and what it means moving forward for the Utah Hockey Club. As always, though, please do follow me on those socials. That is at the Matt Cave Pod on X, Matt Cave Podcast on Facebook, and then there's also the YouTube channel, the Matt Cave Podcast, all one word. And then you can find me on twitch.tv every weeknight from 6 p.m. Mountain to 8 p.m. Mountain Time, although that could be going later. Well, we'll see how I'm feeling, if I'm feeling extra spicy, at twitch.tv/mattscave. And yeah, and if you need to email me, that is themattcavepod@gmail.com. All right, so I think that covers everything. Oh, yeah, and the weekly ask, please do rate, review, share, like, comment, subscribe, wherever you listen, however you listen, goes a very long way, and I would greatly appreciate it, because each and every one of you spelunkers is an amazing human being. Never forget that. All right, let's dive into things. We've got a pretty action-packed show to fit into 30 minutes-ish. So let's start with the Utah Utes. They played in Stillwater, I think for like the first time since like the 40s. The 1940s, and that last time wasn't so great because that was when Oklahoma State was called Oklahoma Agriculture, and I forget what the M stands for in those, but Utah State used to be called Utah A&M, and yeah, that's what Aggies comes from, is they're the agriculturals. But anyway, the Oklahoma State Cowboys were kind of expecting to do very well against Utah. Especially with Cam Rising being out again. He does not have the grip strength necessary to play quarterback. The telecast for Fox kind of went over it, and yeah, you kind of need to be able to grip a football at the highest levels of any football, whether it's Pee-wee going all the way up to the NFL. And if you can't, well, you're not going to be playing quarterback. So Cam Rising needs to work on that grip strength. Hopefully the stitches and everything else, all of that is healing fine. He just needs to work on getting that hand strength back. But Isaac Wilson seems to be doing a better job than last year's cadre of quarterbacks. He went 17 to 29, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. Neither interception was great, but you can still chalk that up to him being a true freshman who was making his second ever start. And this one in a very hostile environment in Stillwater. Just ask Jake Retzlaff how that went for him. And it went pretty well. Micah Bernard Mekhi Bernard, I'm always going to do that. I don't know why. But Mekhi Bernard is legitimate. He runs like he has a hatred for all defenders. I don't know what it is. But every time they came up to make a tackle, and they being the Cowboys, came up to make a tackle on him, you could hear it. There was an audible crunch of pads and helmets. And you've got to be brave tackling Mekhi Bernard. That is the kind of running back that Kyle Whittingham has thrived on throughout his history at Utah. I mean, the most famous example is Zach Moss. But, yeah, Mekhi Bernard is legitimate. Hopefully he can stay healthy with that kind of running. But Isaac Wilson did a little bit of a Cam Rising impersonation there, busting out that 48-yard run that kind of broke things open a little bit for the Utes to get some more points on the board, but that really covers it for the offense. Also, Dorian Singer, he's legitimate. He's a number one for whoever's playing quarterback for Utah. Dude's very good. You just put the ball near him, he's going to make the catch. But let's just talk about the defense. The defense is ridiculously good. Like, my goodness, Morgan Scalley and company. You've put together monsters. And Connor O'Toole missed the game, but it still didn't matter. My guy that I called out at the start of the season as someone to watch, Van Fillinger, yeah, he got a sack. He is the Big 12's leading sack artist, if you want to call it that. And You can see why. He is a monster out there. The rest of the defense, from Logan Fano to Teo Johnson, Lander Barton, and Junior Tafuna, everybody out there has an opportunity to play on Sunday, and that's not an exaggeration. All of these guys are very good. Zamiah Vaughn could be the next in the long line of secondary players that go on to the NFL from this Utah defense. And everywhere you look, somebody's making a play. And it's Kyle Whittingham's philosophy, but it's Morgan Scalley's brain. And you can kind of see the wheels moving on the sideline every time they cut to him. Like he's playing chess while the other team's offensive coordinator is playing checkers. So not only are the players outstanding and they fit the mold of a Kyle Whittingham team, mean, aggressive, not afraid of anyone, hard-hitting, but they have the intelligence of Morgan Scalley where they know their role and they don't overplay. There were a couple of times where they stacked up in the box where you had a free safety and a linebacker in the same hole, so there was some opportunity for Oklahoma State, but that was like 1, 2, maybe 3 times total. Whereas in the BYU game, it was all over the place. But this defense has the opportunity to carry the Utes pretty much for the remainder of their schedule. Next up, they have 2 late games, which is just great for yours truly. Love those games ending at 1 in the morning. Against Arizona and Arizona State, rematches from the old Pac-12 days. I don't think they'll have any problems with Arizona State at all. Arizona could be tricky because they have a very talented quarterback and a very talented wide receiver. The offensive line isn't great, so there is an opportunity there for Sac Lake City to get on track. And that one's at home. So late night in Rice-Eccles Stadium, nobody wins, ever. It's going to be loud. It's going to be fun. And Utah is now a top 10 team again. I thought they should have been top 10 all along. With teams losing in front of the Utes, they are finally up there. It's because they don't get much respect from the national media because Cam Rising is always out, so the offense doesn't look as good as it should. But they're doing this with a true freshman quarterback, and they are just dominating opponents. They shut out Southern Utah. They only gave up 12 points to Baylor. They only gave up 19 points to Oklahoma State. To give you an idea of Oklahoma State and of what they are scoring, in their first game, they scored 44. Second game, 39 against Arkansas. Third game against Tulsa, 45. And they only allowed 19, and 14 of those points came in the second half. Are you kidding me? This defense is elite. Elite, with a capital E. And then pronounce the hard T at the end. Elite. So I am still on the Utah bandwagon. It's just really hard to stay there because of Cam Rising. Couple of things need to happen with Cam Rising. First, he needs to get healthy. That's obvious. The soap opera that Utah fans have been going through for the last year plus now with him of will he or won't he? Is he going to play? Is he healthy? What's going to happen? That needs to stop. And that comes down to Kyle Whittingham and how he handles injuries. He is old school. He's like Bill Belichick. He's not going to give anything away pregame at all. He's going to have everybody suit up. He's going to have everybody out for warm-ups. He's not going to tip his hand, which is fine from a strategic point of view, but that really disrespects your fans. Because a lot of the time, those fans are going just to see a couple of guys. And it harkens back to me and my sister last year in the Cal game. I wanted to go see Cam Rising, but he was never going to play that season. But you weren't ever going to get that from Kyle Whittingham. So that's my knock against Coach Whittingham. Obviously, that's a small knock. Dude's been there for 20 years. I think he's the winningest coach in University of Utah history. He deserves everything good that comes his way. It's just that really annoys me from a fan's point of view because the offense is just abysmal to watch at times. Sometimes you get Isaac Wilson showing the flair of why he was a 4-star recruit, the Utah Gatorade Football Male Athlete of the Year. And then you get more so of he's a true freshman, he doesn't know what he's really looking at, and the game's fast. It's not too fast for him. I've seen, it's not like his older brother in the pros in Zach Wilson's first season when he was a rookie. It's not too fast for Isaac. It's just he doesn't really know what he's looking at, and then the playbook is really small compared to what it would be with Cam Rising, which is basically a phone book. Well, that dates me, but an encyclopedia. Oh, that kind of dates me too. A very big book is the difference between Cam Rising and Isaac Wilson. It's like a pamphlet for Isaac Wilson and War and Peace for Cam Rising. There, that's a good analogy that I think everyone can understand. All right, no matter what generation you're from. Moving forward for the Utes, though, I kind of went over their schedule a little bit. It's very manageable the rest of the way, really, especially from what we saw with Kansas State against BYU. We look at the schedule. The big one is shaping up to be the Holy War. November 9th in Salt Lake City could be a humongous game in the Big 12. It could be. I'll go over the Cougars in a second, but it could be a very big game. But the one to schedule is in Salt Lake City, November 23rd against Iowa State. Iowa State is shaping up to be for real. That one could be huge, as well as the final game of the season when the Utes travel to Central Florida, to Orlando. So those last two games of the season are big. Honestly, if Cam Rising's there, easy peasy lemon squeezy, they're undefeated. If Cam Rising is not there, if he gets himself injured again, then we're going to be talking about dropping a game against maybe BYU, maybe Iowa State, and then things get a little dicey for the Utes. But as it sits right now, behind that running game and behind that defense, if Isaac Wilson can get rid of those interceptions, he could be the Trent Dilfer, where dude threw like 9 touchdowns but won a Super Bowl, you know? So that could be Isaac Wilson this year. All right, so let's move it along let's go to Utah State just for a moment. And I gotta say, I don't understand the switch from Bryson Barnes to Spencer Petras. You saw what Bryson Barnes is capable of. You also saw that he's not afraid of any throw. That's what you kind of need in a group of 5 setting. You need that guy who's just going to pull the trigger no matter what. He trusts his receivers to make the play for him. You kind of need that. Spencer Petras looked okay at times, but Bryson Barnes also has escapability that Spencer Petras doesn't. And the defense for Utah State is a whole nother story. Giving up that many points to Temple. You have 49 points to Temple. Ugh. I told you, Aggie fans, it was going to be a rough year. Buckle up. You might want to pick another team to root for this year, because it's only going to get worse before it gets better. All right, that's all I wanted to talk about for Utah State. I'm not going to make fun of them. I'm not going to do anything else. It's just the decision to go with Petras over Barnes just made me go, what? All right, let's talk about the BYU game and what happened. That's what happened and what is going on were the two questions going through my head with 2 minutes to go in the second quarter throughout the rest of the game. Early on in the game, I was impressed with BYU's pass defense. It was very good. It was very good, actually. To give you an idea, Avery Johnson was a dark horse candidate for Heisman coming into this game. Moving forward throughout his career, he's definitely going to be a Heisman favorite. Junior, senior seasons, absolutely. He needs more reps, and he needs more time in hostile environments. But that he's special. And so this is a blip on the radar for him. But the Cougars only gave up 139 yards passing, and they had 2 interceptions, both of which could be chalked up to Avery Johnson just having his 4th career start, first on the road. Could be chalked up to that. But it's also due to the pressure that BYU is getting on the quarterback. I know I thought I'd never say those words, but BYU is actually getting pressure on the quarterback from more than just Tyler Batty. Jack Kelly is getting there. Like, it's crazy how many different guys had a tackle in this game as well. Incredible. I don't understand what happened other than that Jay Hill has to be a wizard. I don't get it. Because this is practically the same defense from last season minus 2 all Big 12 linebackers. But it seems like I have no words, really. Like, you can hear it in my voice. I'm shocked at this defense. This defense and special teams units are exceptional. Are they on the same level as Utah's? Oh, no. But the bend but don't break attitude that Bronco Mendenhall championed for over a decade, well, defensive coordinator, assistant head coach Jay Hill has kind of taken that and then molded it into a more aggressive style, but that is still bend but don't break. BYU did not give up a touchdown in the game. The environment at LaVell Edwards Stadium was so good and so loud that Kansas State had so many operational penalties that just shouldn't happen for a team ranked in the top 15. Kansas State was ranked number 13 coming into this game. Snap infraction penalties by the center. False starts. Too many men in the backfield. There was almost an illegal substitution. But the environment, the defense, and the special teams won this game for BYU. The offense, oh boy. Oh boy. When the highlight of your offense, the thing that you want to say, you want to congratulate the team on, is that your quarterback did not make a mistake, that doesn't bode well going into more Big 12 play. Jake Retzlaff was 15 to 21, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 0 fumbles. The highlight there is 0 interceptions, 0 fumbles. Both touchdowns came off of short fields that the defense gave him at the end of the first half. He did not look good. He did not look good. He missed receivers, low throws at the knees of his tight ends, throwing the ball behind his receivers when if he threw it in front of them, the receiver could have made a play for a first down, possibly more. A deep throw down the field that, if he hit his receiver in stride, would have been a touchdown. No, he did not make those critical mistakes, which I guess is a step in the right direction, but he misses throws that you would expect I'm going to say it, and Utah fans, you're going to sigh and roll your eyes, but a BYU quarterback has to hit. Jaron Hall hit those. Zach Wilson hit those. Dating back, you go John Beck, Max Hall. They hit those. Taysom Hill hit those. Jake Retzlaff is not even in the same galaxy as those guys. And those are just guys in my lifetime. Obviously, you go further back. Oh, Steve Sarkisian was my lifetime, but I was like 6. So if you go further back than that, Ty Detmer, Steve Young, Jim McMahon, Robbie Bosco, Gifford Nielsen. Like, these guys all hit those throws. Jake Retzlaff isn't that guy. He just isn't. And he's out of control too much. It's just, this team, this defense is light years ahead of this offense. And I thought I would never say that when it comes to a BYU team. Ever. Because under LaVell Edwards, the defense was solid, but the offense was just running the other team ragged, up and down the field, scoring 1 million points a game. Well, now it's this bend but don't break ugly game, and the running game, while better, you're still down your top 2 running backs, which the amount of injuries for both Utah and BYU is astounding. Either the football gods hate these teams, or there is something going on with the training staff and their training regimen, what they're feeding these kids. I don't know. But LJ Martin and Hinckley Ropati missed a second straight game. They need to come back if BYU were to have a chance to be undefeated heading into the Holy War. Now, I want to talk about the BYU defense a little bit more. If we look over the schedule here, against Southern Illinois, they gave up 13 points. Yeah, 13 points. Against SMU, to give you an idea, SMU just put up 66 points against TCU. 66. They gave up 15, not a single touchdown. In the game against Southern Illinois, BYU gave up 2 touchdowns. That's it. Those are the 2 touchdowns they gave up in the first 2 games. Go to Wyoming. They gave up 2 touchdowns. They haven't given up more than 15 points all season. in any game. Not even Utah's defense can claim that. Now, Utah's faced better competition than BYU has, but this defense is more legitimate than I think anybody was expecting. And oh, by the way, 2 of the 3 undefeated teams in the Big 12 reside here in the state of Utah, the Beehive State. The other one is Central Florida. So the 3 newcomers to the Big 12 are leading the pack right now. That's awesome. So, if we look at the rest of the schedule for BYU, they head to Baylor this week. Normally, I would say that BYU should be ready for a rough game, but Dave Aranda is on the hottest of hot seats. If it weren't for Billy Napier and Florida, he would probably be the one on the hottest of seats. Baylor has not looked good all season. And now they lose a overtime heartbreaker. It was an infinitely fun game to watch, but an overtime heartbreaker to Colorado. They come home against BYU. They got their teeth kicked in against Utah. And so Kalani Sitake is kind of building BYU in that same image as Kyle Whittingham, where it's, I want the toughest, meanest guys on the field, and we're going to outman you. I can see Kalani Sitake wanting to do that. So Baylor, and then they have a week off before they face off against Arizona at home. It will probably be another late kickoff. Yay. And then a huge one. A rematch of the game in Stillwater that went into triple overtime against Oklahoma State. Maybe Oklahoma State isn't as good as everyone thinks they are, but they're still good. And BYU still has trouble against the run. Against Kansas State, they gave up 228 yards rushing. A mobile quarterback is the nightmare boogeyman for BYU. That being said, Oklahoma State doesn't have that quarterback. So, is it possible that BYU and Utah head into the Holy War both undefeated at the top of the Big 12? At the start of the season, I would have called you crazy because I thought BYU was in for a rough and tumble season again. But if Jake Retzlaff can figure it out, he's got the weapons. He just needs to hit them. If he can figure that out, if Aaron Roderick calls a game similar to what he did against Kansas State, where he's not trying to prove he's smarter than everybody else and he just calls a game, it's possible. I would give the odds about 33% possible, 67% not possible. But if BYU's defense and Utah's defense keep performing at the clips they're performing at, we could run into maybe even a top 10 matchup of BYU and Utah at the top of the Big 12. It's possible. It really is. Because BYU's schedule mirrors that of Utah's, basically. And so, this is kind of very exciting. It really is. I'm almost talking myself into believing that this is a 50-50 chance. But Jake Retzlaff is going to make it so that doesn't happen. Yeah, it really is. But Jay Hill has done a fantastic job with the defense in just 1 year. They were the worst defense, pretty much statistically, in the country last year. And then this year, they're top 25. That's insane. All right, so let's move it on real quick. I've only got a few minutes left, so let's talk about Real Salt Lake. So Real Salt Lake faced off against Portland in the middle of all the BYU madness, and they scored 3 goals. That's the good news. The bad news, they gave up 3 goals. Again, last 3 games, they've given up 9 goals. That's a problem. That's a big one. That being said, they only have 4 games left, and right now they are sitting second place in the Western Conference. That's already a successful season. Done, dusted. Whatever happens the rest of the way, they're making the playoffs, and they're going to make the playoffs near that 2 seed. I don't think they're going to catch the Galaxy at the top with 58 points. But if you look at Real Salt Lake's schedule the rest of the way, they don't face a team in the top 6 of the Western Conference. Their next game is against Austin. Then they face off against Minnesota, San Jose, who's at the bottom, and Vancouver, who is right down at the bottom with them. It's entirely conceivable that Real Salt Lake gets 12 points throughout the rest of the season, which would put pressure on the LA Galaxy to at least win one of their games and draw the other to have the same points and just rely on goal difference. Real Salt Lake still has the second best goal difference in the Western Conference with plus 15. They've been giving up a lot of goals, but they've also been scoring a lot of goals. So their goal difference hasn't really dropped. This is great. It's fantastic. And Real Salt Lake is doing this without the superstars. I said that last week. I'll say it again. I will keep reiterating it. They've done this season with the biggest superstar being Chicho Arango, and Chicho was out for a few games. So congratulations to Pablo Mastroeni. If he does not win Manager of the Year, I'm going to call corruption at the MLS office, and I'm just going to say that's stupid. Because Real Salt Lake was picked to finish dead last in every single preseason poll, whatever you want to call it. So congratulations to Real Salt Lake on an already massively successful season. All right, so I want to talk about Dylan Guenther really quick. Dylan Guenther and the Utah Hockey Club recently, and by recently I mean like Saturday, agreed to an 8-year, $57.1 million extension. That means there's going to be about $7 and some change million against the cap over the course of his deal, which means it's not front-loaded, it's not back-loaded, it's even keel throughout all of it. Dylan Guenther is elite. He is. And this is massive for the Utah Hockey Club because they get an elite frontliner to match up with their elite defender. So that's two big pieces. And I've said this forever, but this team has the chance to make some waves this season, make the playoffs. And as everybody that watches hockey knows, once you make the playoffs, all bets are off. There are no favorites anymore. 7-game series throughout. It's awesome. I'm excited about this. Will I be getting a Dylan Guenther jersey when it come out? No, I'm still going for a Tidge Ginla jersey. But the good news about the sweaters or jerseys, if you want to call them that, they're actually slated and rumored to be coming out in November as opposed to January. And then there are still some rumors about them coming out sooner than November. So maybe Ryan Smith got on the horn and said, this is unacceptable. What are we doing here? I hope he did, because I know he's a fan as well as an owner. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here. But this is great. This is great. Dylan Guenther being signed. He's 21 years old, and he's locked up for 8 years. Are you kidding me? He's only going to be 29 when the deal expires, which means they could re-sign him again for another 4 years, and he would still be near the prime of his career when that deal expires. This is great. This is masterfully done by Utah General Manager Bill Armstrong and crew. I'm excited about this deal, as should you be. All right, as far as gaming news is concerned, there is a new game that came out recently from the same guys, I think, who made Supermarket Simulator, called Trading Card Game Card Shop Simulator, that I just picked up today, and I had to physically stop myself. I had to crash out the program for all you gamers and computer nerds out there. I had to Alt F4 the program so that I remembered to record this episode today. That is how much fun this game is. It is as much fun as Supermarket Simulator, but a little bit more simple and a lot more fun. The reason it's more fun is because in my real life, I am a huge card collecting fan. I collect Pokemon, I collect Magic, and I collect Disney Lorcana. I collect all three of those card games. So this is just, it speaks to me on a different level. And so this is one I do recommend you check out and play because it is simple fun. And it's a good way to just kind of escape for a little bit. And that's what video games are for. So this one is a buy it. It's not a buy it if it goes on sale. It's a buy it if you like the genre, avoid it altogether. Now this is a buy it. It's like $13 on Steam. All right, that's the show this week, everybody. Thank you all so much for listening. Please let me know what you agreed with, what you didn't agree with, what you're looking forward to for the Utah Hockey Club this season as we almost hit preseason. Preseason actually starts today as of me recording this episode. And I will see you all next week when we spelunk back into the Matt Cave.